Hi, I'm John Perkins, author and activist, here with John Viera of Ford Motor Company. He's head of sustainability. And John, you know, it's interesting, in my writings, and I'm going to be talking on the main stage in a few minutes about how the world today really is controlled by big corporations like Ford.
Right.
And if we can get those big corporations to come around and create a sustainable, just and peaceful world, our children and grandchildren are going to grow up in a pretty lousy world. Your job is to make that happen, and you at Ford, I believe, are committed to seeing that happen. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
please?
absolutely, John, and your point is very valid, right? It's really the big companies that do have the money that can make a difference in the world. We know that there's a lot of governments throughout the world, particularly in developing countries, that don't have the wherewithal. So it's the big companies that can make the difference. And I'm fortunate in my role as Director of Sustainability at Ford that we're responsible for all of the long-term environmental and social strategies for the company. So that would fall into two categories. For the environmental side, what are we doing in terms of our future vehicles? What are they going to be running on? What are we doing with our plants to make sure we're reducing emissions? And on the social side, what are we doing with regard to human rights and working conditions, not only in our facilities, but really throughout the world with the supply base that we deal with?
Right. Yeah, you know, in addition to having the money, companies like Ford and so many of the other big corporations have such amazing creativity powers. And I sometimes get accused of being a little bit too much of a capitalist. I am a capitalist, but there's a lot of people out there that say capitalism doesn't work. I think capitalism has been extremely successful at channeling human resources into productive means. Now we just have to make sure that they're channeled into means that will create a world that our children and grandchildren will want to inherit. And so, how at Ford are you working toward getting those creative minds to doing a better job with sustainability and social issues?
Yeah, well, great question, John, because when we think about the creative minds, while we might have the financial power and some creative minds within Ford, something that we're really relying on are collaborations. So we interface with a lot of non-government organizations, special interest groups. Being at a conference like this conference, the Green Festival, we're getting input from a variety of different sources to help us come up with the solutions that we want to implement from an environmental and social side. So it's just not innovation from our end, but it's also like from a mind share standpoint, getting that innovation from the outside world to come up with the solutions.
Wonderful. And what's driving this from a corporate standpoint? What is the driving?
Yeah, because when we talk about sustainability, it's the intersection of the economic, environmental, and social. So the economic is an important piece. We know, number one, if we want to be a viable company moving forward, we need to make sure that we are being responsible from an environmental standpoint, because if we use all the resources, we won't be able to make the products. We're also seeing, though, John, that customers more and more are interested in working with responsible companies, so it makes business sense to do it as well.
I think consciousness is changing, and you recognize that corporations have to catch up with that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure
John,
talking
thank
to
you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.